All right, this is December 13th, 1997, and we have Rose Nelson and Wayne and Ethel here today, and we're going to talk with them about early Cornish. And Rose is going to tell us something about the glass house on the hill. You have to speak up. So.
Oh, now?
I'm wondering, was it really all glass? Like, I imagine this house that was just built with glass all around it.
You've got to picture it that this is all glass.
Right,
Outside.
all the walls.
Were all
But what
glass.
about the ceiling? Was
No.
the ceiling? No.
No, but the
had
walls
roofs.
was all glass.
The what?
Walls was all
Yeah.
glass.
And the furniture used to go down into the cellar at one time.
What do you mean? They'd
And
take it?
they'd pull them up with ropes. Do you remember that?
The furniture?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have much furniture.
No.
They had dividers of brown cloth
Mm-hmm.
with just little thin boards to hold them together, and you could slide those back and
Yeah.
forth to open a room or close it.
Well, they had certain areas they had where they'd pull on these ropes and furniture would come out of the cellar.
Oh, for goodness sake.
The trap door would open.
Yeah, that was a trap door to the cellar was in the kitchen.
Yeah, but don't you remember all the floors were cut?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
The
you
living room, the well, was in front of the living room fireplace. There was one big fireplace in the middle of the house, and it was open to the kitchen and open to the living room. And there was a leather thong with a big square, and you pull up that door, and that was the well. And the same thing, you went down the cellar the same way. And then they had smaller boxes, and it was zinc lined. Was it zinc or tin or something? And they had bread and butter and stuff like that in those under the floor.
Of course, there was no electricity.
Right.
And they had a wide ridge pole on the top of the house,
Mhm.
and they had rings in 2 rings, and they had a bed with legs on one side of it, and they'd take the bed up there and hook it into those rings, and they'd sleep up there under the stars.
So there.
It was a Japanese style roof that came down like this,
It had-
you know?
What, 7 courses of shingles on it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the sides, the glass on the sides was not much higher than that, was it? And then the wood came way down, didn't it, on the sides?
No,
no,
it was
it
glass
was-
from the bottom right up
Yeah,
to the
just
top.
like that sliding glass door.
Yes, but it,
It had panes.
yeah.
They were
But
divided.
the sides of the house didn't go up like the sides do here. The sides kind of come out, didn't they? Like
No,
that?
no. They came down straight.
I thought they kind of come out because you could reach
No.
the eaves.
There were 3 snapshots of Conan up there with a school teacher from way back. They were in the yard, and you could just see the roof and some of the house, you know, in the background. But that was taken back in 1930 something.
Yeah.
I thought the roof came down lower than they do now.
The roof came down.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
but not the walls. The
No,
walls-
no, not the walls. The
Well,
roof came
was
down.
your Japanese, the curve
Yeah,
on the
yeah, that's what I mean.
And the bricks that they used were this long. I've got one at home,
Yeah.
and this wide.
Red bricks?
Brick. Were they red? Sort of. I can't tell. Sort of brown, I think. They were
I
sort
was
of
just going to say a furnace.
brown brick. I don't know what.
And they had to use dynamite to tear down the chimney.
Huh.
They couldn't tear it down. by
Why'd they
hand.
want to tear it down?
Well, because the glass house itself had gone. It's just the chimney.
But
And
why
they
can't you just
afraid
leave it
people was
there?
going to get hurt.
Oh.
But-
they had to dynamite it. They couldn't-
What?
I
Yeah.
wrote to Mr.
How-
Barrett, and I told him that the hedgehogs were chewing the house. And people had broken in, and they'd torn the telephone out of the wall, and they'd done a lot of damage inside. And he didn't want it desecrated, so he asked somebody in Plainfield.
Yeah, I can't.
Do you remember who it was?
No, I can't. No.
And so that person took the rest of the house down, but not the chimney, apparently.
There's a tunnel that goes underneath and
Mhm.
comes out. When I was a kid, I used to always go and crawl through there. What was that part, do you know?
I don't know, really.
Was it a drain?
Well, no. I think maybe it was a type of a lets the air in to the cellar.
Oh,
And today they've got one, like this one is up at Littell's. It's got a pipe with a fan on it.
oh, for heaven's sake.
And it was, the
But
sound
I didn't
sucks.
think this went into the cellar. I thought it started outside. And
Oh, it does, way down. What is it,
Pretty far.
50 feet?
Oh,
Probably.
I would say. And it's what, that square?
I think so. Like, I don't think I would want to go through it now, but when I was a child, I did.
Do a lot of things when we're kids.
That's where we used to get hedgehogs. Is out of that.
You got them? How'd you get them? You trapped
Smoke
them?
them out.
They would live in there?
Mhm.
what did you catch?
Hedgehogs.
Oh, hedgehogs.
Yeah.
Cut off their nose and get 50 cents.
Oh, yeah. When I
Why-
was town
why-
clerk, I had to give a lot of 50 cents to people. They'd bring the noses to the office, and I'd take them home to Conan.
How many did Harry bring to you?
Hmm?
How many did Harry bring to you?
I don't remember,
You don't remember?
but he did.
He didn't get them himself, but when he was selectman,
Oh,
they used to bring them to Harry.
yeah.
And oh my land, I don't know how many.
Why did you want hedgehog noses?
50 cents a piece.
I know, but
To
why?
prove
That
that
you killed them.
the state wanted to get rid of them.
She was a bounty.
Oh.
So they gave a bounty of 50 cents a nose, but they had to bring the nose in. And then, didn't they have to bring a head or
Head
something
in
more
finally.
because they could make believe it was a nose? You couldn't have tell the difference.
There's one thing I want to mention though. Barrett's glass house is Robert Barrett.
Yes, Robert and Catherine.
Yeah.
Robert Barrett, he was a man that, if you remember in the wintertime, he'd walk around in a t-shirt. We was fox hunting on the backside of pipes, and we met him, and he had, the snow was up almost to your knees, and he had moccasins on, and his shirt was unbuttoned. No gloves, no hat. And he said he'd sleep anywhere. Didn't
I was
matter.
going to say he used to sleep
Yeah.
outdoors, sleep with his feet outdoors. You knew that.
Very,
probably.
very nice man. Very pleasant. Do you remember him?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Very nice man.
When I was about 6 years old, or 5 maybe, I don't imagine I was 6 because it was before I went to school, I was playing out in the dooryard in the dirt, doing something, making a house or I don't know what. And Dad had come out and gone up to the cow barn. And all of a sudden I looked up and this huge man came walking into the dooryard. All he had on was some brown sandals and some khaki shorts. And his shoulders, I swear, were that wide and hairy. And he turned and went right up to the barn. And I was so scared for Daddy. I ran in the house and I was crying. And Mrs. Barrett was sitting there shucking peas with my mother. And they both laughed. I felt so embarrassed. I remember it because I was so embarrassed.
Oh, he looked like a giant coming up through the
Oh,
woods.
to a little girl on the
Mm.
ground, he looked huge.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny.
I remember mostly with their donkeys, seeing them. They
Yeah.
used to go by the house over there in the fires, about every week.
Uh-huh.
They used to take them and go and stay overnight out, places. And then,
Tell them about the bowways. Can you tell about the bowways they built and everybody's barbed wire fences?
I don't think I remember that.
No? You do. Haven't you walked over the hills and
Oh, yeah.
found all those bowways?
Oh,
What's
yes.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
They had pipes,
Yeah.
about four or five, that they would cut a barbed wire fence. They'd get permission from the farmer, and they'd have those locked, and he had a key. So he wouldn't have to cross any barbed wire fences, and he could walk anywhere all over Cornish,
Mm.
from one property to another. Yeah.
No, I never saw
Have you, by any chance, ever been down to the big pine tree below the glass house?
Yeah, I know that one.
I have. I've got to
Is
go
the
up
sign
before
still on it? Deeded to Robert Barrett?
I don't think so.
There's a bronze plaque on it, isn't there?
Oh, that's what I was wondering, if it was still there.
I think
I
Oracle
don't-
said it was.
It is? I don't remember seeing it, but maybe I just...
Hmm.
Did you ever see that, Ruben? You
No.
only went up there once, but...
No, that's kind of a, that's the only one that was left during the hurricane.
Oh, was there a
The whole area
lot?
was like that big pine
Oh,
when the Hurricane 38 come through. It took all except that one.
really? That's interesting.
But,
I tried to walk up there when Marie Blenderman visited me from, she was one of my friends in Washington, D.C., and she came up to visit. was it Washington or New Jersey? New Jersey, when I worked down there. And so many trees were down, we had to walk along the trunks, and it made her dizzy and woozy, and she thought she was going to faint. We never got very far. I thought that was so funny, she couldn't walk a log. But Conan remembers Mr. Barrett going with the donkeys. He'd be out getting his cows, and the donkeys would come along.
Used to have 4 or 5.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Charlie Johnson, Conan's father,
Yeah.
helped build it.
Mhm.
He was one of the carpenters up there.
So how long did they live there? Or did they live someplace else too?
Well, they lived there in the summer, didn't they, mostly?
Just so much.
Mm.
Yeah.
It was fun.
They traveled, they went to Nepal, and they climbed Mount Everest, and they wrote a book about it.
Really? I didn't
You should
know
read that.
Mhm.
It's in the library.
Uh-huh.
And she wrote poetry. She was Catherine Ellis, and she was the Cornish librarian. And he had gotten her to be the librarian, had picked her out, and the town hired her. And then he fell in love with her, and they got married. And so she traveled with him, and she wrote poetry. I've got a book of hers, Red Shoes, book of poems.
Well, it's very nice people.
Yeah, they were. They did a lot for the town. They did a lot for the schools, the children,
They had a school for the boys. Some
Yeah.
of the boys.
for the troubled boys,
Yeah,
and Uncle
troubled
Louis was one of them. Uncle Louis. Louis Fitch.
Oh, yeah?
They had a school on the hill, northwest of Cornish Flat Village, up on that hill there somewhere.
Mhm.
And it only lasted 2 or 3 years. But I think,
Jessie Jessamine was the teacher.
oh, yes,
You remember?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She lived at Tiff's.
uh-huh.
I can't think of her first name, but Jessamine, her last name.
I should remember it. I can't think of it now. I'll remember it afterwards.
Yeah, same with me.
Just-
So what was that school like?
Well, I'm not sure. They only taught certain subjects, didn't they, Rose? Do you remember?
I don't remember too much. I don't think they didn't go into, well, I don't think they went into history and so much. I don't know, it's just history. But language and that stuff, I don't think they went into
No.
that so much.
One thing
Yes,
they
they did.
were taught was how to live out in the wild,
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
how to exist if you didn't have any store near you. And he took a bunch of them way out west.
Uh-huh.
Uncle Louis was one of those, I think.
Want George Tewksbury one of them?
I think so.
Was Stubby well?
I'm not sure. Could have been. He was about that age.
A Chadman boy.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
There were 10 or 12 of them.
and there was a
anyway,
number of them.
that were.
Was it a school during the school year or just the summer? The summer school?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't remember. I would have said it was a year round, or
Yeah,
school year.
2 or 3
I would have
years.
said so.
Mm-hmm. Was he from this area, Mr. Barrett? Was he from Cornish, or did he come from some other place?
Oh, Mr. Barrett?
Yeah.
He was of the Barrett Roofing Company family. Chicago?
Yeah.
I think Chicago. He came from originally. The Barrett Roofing, it was asphalt roofs. I can remember when they were sold,
Mhm.
but they aren't anymore.
No.
So he had money in back of him, I guess, and he had a sister, Adela Barrett. Adela was his sister, and she lived where the Shuleys live now.
Mm-hmm.
That was at the foot of Barrett's Hill.
Yeah, that is right over beyond where we lived at the
Mhm.
playground.
Well, and then of course, I don't remember the farm at all, do you?
What
The
farm?
big farm at Barrett's, 3 Corners there, the
Mm-mm.
barn or anything.
Well, were the
What?
roads there different? Like, were those same roads there? Like, was Witten Road there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Wasn't that barn still there in 26?
Was what?
Wasn't that barn still down there at that corner in 26? Almost seems though I've seen it.
Corner of Gap Road and,
No, right at the sharp corner where you turn to go to Salinger's.
Yeah, where you go to Salinger's or go over to Mike's, you know.
oh.
There was a big
I know.
barn.
Yes, it was. I can just barely remember it.
Yeah, you know who was telling me about that just recently was Carol Heath. Do you know who Quimby?
Oh,
Quimby, she
Okay.
yeah.
she was telling me about the farmhouse that's like in the Flatiron at the point of, kind of the point of the Flatiron, and then the barn on the other side, and she says the foundation is still there.
yes.
She thinks of the house. So I was gonna go try to look for it, but not when there's snow. I won't find it.
Not very easy.
My kids
Yeah.
always call that the three-toot corner. When I'd be coming along, I'd toot 3 times, so make sure that if they got around the corner, they'd know I was coming.
Three-tooth corner.
So now we know where the funny names come from.
And I think Melissa also wanted to find out if you knew anything about the
Witten Cemetery? Yeah. Like, you know that story of wonderful, marvelous, strange, and true that were buried on Witten Road in that cemetery?
the Whitten Cemetery.
Is that the crossroad from Paul St. Gordon's over through?
Yeah.
It was all Johnson's, I think, that was buried there, wasn't it?
I thought they were Whittens. That's why it's called Whitten Road.
It might have been the Johns, because see, Carol Heath was telling me about that. I don't know why people don't know her as Carol Quimby?
Well,
I don't know. Anyway.
I think it was mostly Johnson's that was buried there. I remember because, Charlie Johnson over to Scottney
Yeah.
was the one that trimmed that all up and cut out all the brush and everything. And
Mrs. McClay did up in Meriden too.
she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she painted the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Charlie Johnson
She-
was the one because his folks was buried there.
Yeah. Well, they're both related to the
Yeah, there's some way that they,
Whitten family.
Oh,
yeah,
probably.
that could be. That could be.
Get out down history.
Were they Johnsons or were they Whittens?
Well, I tried to look it up in the town history. I tried to find anything about the Witten Cemetery. It wasn't even,
No,
that cemetery wasn't even in
See,
there.
that was lost years ago. in the
Yeah.
records.
Yeah, because it wasn't in the records.
Yeah. I don't know if there's even a record kept of it. Are there any markings on any stones?
I think there's just head and foot stones there.
Yeah,
I don't
they-
think there's markings.
They're just
on the
rough stones. I've been over there
Yeah.
and looked at it.
I never was down to the cemetery, but I do remember about Charlie Johnson coming over and cleaning it out.
Mm-hmm.
But
Cutting
he
all
cleaned
the
it up. When he
brush.
cleaned it up, he cut trees that big around that was inside the cemetery.
Yeah, but it had grown since anybody had cleaned it.
Yeah.
Well, Kay McClay, I was talking with her once, and from Meriden, from the store up there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and she said she'd been down and painted and cut brush and stuff. I guess she didn't cut any big trees, but she trimmed the brush back.
Well, this, I would say Johnson done that 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, well, Carol said when she was a kid, and she was up there, was it her? You were listening to that too. Her and her family cleaned it out too, and they kind of discovered that the stones were there and stuff. Cause I don't know. She had this long story about it too,
And
and
didn't she say there
cleaning it
were
up.
13 stones?
Yeah,
there?
they found 13 stones.
Yeah, yeah.
I know after they cut the brush and stuff, you could see the stones,
Yes,
you know.
they look nice.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got it fixed
Did
up.
you ever read what they have in here on it?
What?
Did you ever read what Teeny and Jack found and put in here on it?
Oh, I haven't seen that
Oh,
I
there.
haven't seen it.
This is all the graveyards in Cornish. And
Oh,
all the information Teeny and Jack have put in it. Now, on the Witten Cemetery, they've got John, Revolutionary War vet, died in 1826. Fieldstone for a marker with no inscription. Town history states John came with his wife Anna from Portsmouth and settled in Cornish about 1772.
what was their last name?
Witten, John Revolutionary. Now listen, wait till you hear the rest of the names. It also states that his wife gave birth to 4 children at one time. They were named Wondrous, Strange, Marvelous, and True.
I've heard that.
Yeah, see, that's
Their
it.
grave is marked by a fieldstone. This information is taken from the Town History, Volume 2, page 416.
Oh, 'cause see, I couldn't find it in the town history.
No,
but-
that's all there is on the whole thing. So.
Right.
Wow, that was
Well,
really early for.
I was gonna say,
here.
they used to put a flag there. I don't think they do anymore, do they?
Because he is a war vet.
Yeah.
Huh, I don't think they do.
Died in
I can remember
1826.
when, I guess the Sillet men used to do it. My father
Because his
was-
name isn't there even. Where would they know where to put the flag?
No, I think they just,
Stick it in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
This
should-
is for your drone.
I would say that Harry put a flag over there.
That's
'Cause he
17.
used to
I've
put
seen
flags
flags in there
Something
since we
like-
were married.
mm,
I've seen flags in
Yeah,
there
I
since
think
we
they-
were married because I didn't know it existed before
Yeah.
then. So somebody put flags in there.
Hmm.
When you said 50, 60 years ago, I thought it was quite a while ago, but I think we was living up on the farm when Johnson cleaned out
yeah.
that, but we've been down here 40 years, so.
Heaven's sake.
You know, it don't seem so long, does it?
No,
pick these
no,
up
I
at
can
the
remember
town
when we
office,
moved
you
out.
see.
Yeah, just 40 years in
A lot of
October
history.
that we moved down.
I would never dream it was that
No.
long ago. I can remember having to go way down in the East Woods to find our cows.
Yeah, I can remember you doing that.
And there were bobcats down
Yeah.
there, and Thena and I got the bobcat went into a cave, a great big ledge with a cave in it. And I stayed there outside the cave, and Bethina went up and got Harry, and so he could come down and kill the bobcats.
And you stood there and kept it in there.
Yes.
Did he get it?
I think so.
Oh, Lord.
I think so. I don't know how he got it up, whether he took a dog down there and the
Isn't
dog
you
went in.
great?
Scared the cat out or something. But we used to be coming home from church Sunday evening, we belonged to the Young People's Club, and we'd be walking up Harry's Hill, you know, and the bobcats would be going right along beside the road and meowing and meowing. We used to sing so to scare them off.
Tell them the story of your going down through there.
Well, one on the bobcats is that I was fixing fence in spring of the year. And it was, well, the logs had no rotted, the trees from the hurricane.
Yeah.
And I was jumping from tree to tree. The cows couldn't get through, and I couldn't. So I was jumping, and all of a sudden I heard a hiss. And I looked down, and there's the female bobcat, and there's 3 little ones right behind her.
Oh my heavens.
I didn't stop. I kept going. Because I think she'd have come right up through.
Yeah.
But I know one night, used to go out with Reverend Scruton and go up to the hockey game up to Dartmouth,
Mhm.
and I'd have to walk back home. Well, one night it had snowed about a foot, and so I'm walking up through Jonesville, up over the big hill, and the Pella line is in at that time. And I knew something was behind me, and I didn't know what it was, and I don't want to turn around. And so I walked up through the Pella line and went to go off the Pella line, and oh, it was moonlight. And I stopped and turned around, here come a fox jumping in my footprints.
Oh my God.
How old were you?
17, 18, something like that.
Teenager.
But you had to walk all the way from Dartmouth, though?
No, from the center road,
Center Road.
right up over here. No, about 9/10 of a mile.
No.
But that night, of all things, I get home, get in bed, and the old tractor snowplow comes up by the house. And there I'd wallowed in that snow from my knees.
A little bit late. That's the way we always went to church.
Yeah.
Went over to Dunn's Corner now, down by Brian Pinkson's,
Right.
down the hills.
I've done that before to visit friends on Center Road.
Yeah. And come down to Center
I
Road.
used to take milk down there with a horse and sleigh or horse and buggy every morning at 8:30.
Was that just a path in the woods, or was it more of a road then?
It was discontinued in,
It was discontinued before we moved down here.
oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chester Newbold was asking me about that,
I'd say at
and I
least-
told him it wasn't blocked before when we come down here, but it was,
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
I remembered afterwards. I told him wrong. I didn't at that time. I didn't think that it was, but it was,
Yeah.
because I remembered it. What I
You don't-
remembered about it, there was some
The road
horse
was never open with you, was it?
riders, horseback riders come up
Guys
through
used to
there
go up and down there?
after it was closed,
Oh,
and they
We
come
was
up
living-
through, and they was
We
going
were
to take a fence
living
down.
there and we stopped
Oh,
at
So it's
them.
about 40
told
years
them not
ago.
to. And they was going to take a fence down. Well, they was very, very, well, mean about it. And they was very much disgusted because they couldn't come through.
so we had to
And
turn
if
around.
they had been a little bit different, a little pleasanter, I think Harry could have let them in through the night pasture around to the barnyard. But I guess by the way they was acting, we weren't inclined to tell them they could go around that way. And they went back. And
They had to go all the way back down the Center Road.
they had to go back down the center road. Well, Harry had closed the road down, halfway to the steep hill.
Yeah.
So the cows wouldn't go out there, you see, because
Oh,
the
yeah.
cows, it was all open to the cows. And all of a sudden he happened to think, maybe he'd better go down there. He went down there and they'd taken the fence all down there.
Just so they could get through their
So
horses.
they could get through.
Oh,
It
people
wasn't anybody that we knew. It wasn't any horseback riders that ordinarily go there.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't anybody that we knew. We never did know.
Dad used to get pretty disgusted because people would come and take down the bars to the cow pasture, and they wouldn't put them back out.
Yeah.
They'd go in and go for a hike or something, and then the cows would all get out, and
But if Harry hadn't gone down and seen the fence all down, the cows would have gone
Right.
everywhere.
they would have been all over the place,
They would have, yeah.
like Michael Yatsevich's cows.
We'll erase that later.
I was plowing snow for the town, and I got to the Gap Road.
Uh-huh.
There's about 25 cows in front of me. Snow's about that deep. They wouldn't get out of the road. I had to follow them all the way up through the Mike's house. That's a long way. Well, you're speaking of the old farm. I think I like to look back and remember when we used to have a sliding party somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
What hill was that on?
Right by Brian's house, that hill right there. See, the beauty part of it was the cars couldn't get up that hill in the wintertime. So we could slide
like right
it
below.
right beside the house. You just take off.
You know where we had the beaver pond?
From the house, you go right down
Yeah.
Yeah.
a steep
It
hill.
doesn't seem
no.
like. I
But
don't
it,
remember how steep it is, but.
No, but you used to go. But the best part was at the foot of the hill is a big culvert, the first hill. And of course in the wintertime, the road comes up, and the culvert stays down here. You remember the dip?
Mm.
You didn't go down there belly button on a sled, because you went over that jump, and you'd go about that high in the air, and then you'd come down, and it hurt. And Kona and Harry Bean had a tremendous big Travis, and they'd pull that thing up and go out, and they'd get my father to ride on the back end. Down they'd go. Well, a whole bunch of them would pull it back up, and they'd wait for my father, and they was all lined up. I can remember this.
I can remember that very
All
well.
lined up on the Travis, and here is the space right on the end. When my father sat, go up through, he'd plop onto that Travis, and boom, down the hill they'd go.
How much did he weigh back then?
Probably 230, 240.
Yeah. around that, yeah. But
What's
he
a
would go every
Travis?
rest of the time. They would wait for
Long
him. He
sled.
would go every rest of the time.
Okay, it has the runners, but in the middle of it, it moves, right?
Yeah, you could, no, you had your sled in the front.
Right,
Then you had a sled way in the back. It didn't
but they were
move
connected.
by this plank.
Yeah.
But that plank was, what, 16 feet long?
Yeah,
Oh,
must
that's
have been.
long.
And the man steering, just one man, he was in the front, and that had ropes, and that's the way you steer it. And you take 10 people on a sled, you're gonna move. And they did.
And whoever's sitting in front of you held your ankles, and
Yeah.
the next person
Yeah,
held the
like
next guy's
this here.
ankles.
So if you ever dropped your leg, you'd break it right off.
And whenever you went over, it was knicker pile.
Yeah.
Everybody
And
went over.
When you hit that bump I was talking about down there, my father would go right up in the air and right back down.
Ouch. So why'd they close that road before we totally?
On account of the big hill.
Oh, because of
People were getting stuck there all the time, and we'd get up in the middle of the night with a tractor or the horses and go down and pull them out.
uh-huh.
That was the main reason.
Snow, ice, and mud.
But it was closed during the winter.
Right.
And you know, Leon and Mildred Monroe used to come over and slide.
Oh, they did too?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, they used to come over. Yeah. Sunday nights. They was over Sunday nights, and they would go. You remember it?
But all the time, remember the big pine tree down at the foot of the hill?
Uh-huh.
We'd build a fire underneath it.
Yeah.
And Conant and Harry always had to go up to the house, and they'd come down through the big fire, the Travis. And they'd go right through the fire. That ended the show. Everybody went home.
That was our men.
But Conant and Harry used to try to go down the big hill. That's where the sharp corner is at the foot. Did they ever make it?
I don't remember.
Since all they can remember is they'd wind up in the blackberry bushes, the sled would be on top of them.
They used to come down McClary's Hill too,
Mhm.
and then try to make the corner at the foot.
No, they'd wind up in the brook.
Now I
And they
know
used to-
when you
They
say
used to throw a
Conant, but who's
chain
Harry?
underneath the runners.
Half brother.
Oh, okay.
They used
Who's
to throw a
half-brother?
chain underneath the runners to slow them
Conant's
down a
half
little.
brother?
Harry
Get going
Bean.
so fast.
Oh, Harry Bean.
Harry Bean. He
Yeah.
was Mrs. Johnson's boy.
Yes, Nellie Johnson's son.
Okay, so he's half brother to Conant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Between the two of them,
No,
they made a
it was
pretty
her
good.
son.
Well, he wasn't half brother.
He wouldn't be a half brother because he was her son before she married Charlie Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Stepbrother.
And they used to live out where the Bean, his name was Bean, and they used to live out on Walter Smith's place.
Yeah.
The Beans lived out there.
But she lived in Unity too. Go down by that church, the white church there in Unity, down that hill.
When you very first started talking, you were asking Rose about where she was born and how long she'd been here. Probably ought to get that on tape
Oh
for
yes, that's good.
verification.
What year were you born?
1905.
1905. And when did you come to Cornish?
If I thought of it in
When
that way.
when you were 7, did you say?
11.
11?
Yes.
I was 16.
And then you married Harry when you were 18.
I came to Cornish when I was 14. I came to Cornish when I was 14. I finished school
Yep,
in.
the way you was,
I finished school when I was 13. I was 13 in April, and I was done in school. And I came to Cornish the next year.
Oh.
And Mr. Barrett was bound determined I was going to go to school.
Because you weren't 14 yet?
Because I wasn't, yeah. But I was through school. And
So wait, you finished school when you were 14?
when I was, just after I was turned 13.
Back then, there weren't very many children that went on to high school.
Uh-huh.
I think there was only one other person besides me when I graduated from grade school that went on to high school.
No, they didn't.
They either went to work or
Yeah.
got married, you
Yeah,
know.
I said, that's what happened to me. I would like to work as on the farm.
Yeah.
And I was 13.
Mhm.
I was 14 in August, but graduated when I was 13.
I went to school when I was 6, but I skipped 1 grade. And,
You were too smart.
yeah,
So where did you guys go to school? With
well, I went to started school in Burlington, Vermont. We lived up there. And then I came to Wethersfield Bowl when I was in the,
You graduated from Wethersfield?
and friends, where did you go to school?
Dingleton Hill School.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
Yeah.
Didn't Grandpa go to that one too?
Grandpa went to that.
It was real small.
Dad, yep.
How many people were in your class?
Well, different number of kids, different years. Lucille Burke, who lived where the Dunns do now, she and I started in 1st grade together. And then the Benwares moved into town, and there were 1 or 2 of the Benwares joined our class. And the Paynes came. The Paynes lived where the Manette's, where Don Manette lives,
Mm-hmm.
down on Dingleton Hill. And I think Helen was in my class. And when I graduated, they had moved out of town again, and so it was just Lucille and I graduating. But we graduated in the town hall, and all the little schools that were left in Cornish, I think there were 8 schools then, so all 7 plus Dingleton Hill came to the graduation. And everybody had an essay to read, except Lucille and I, and we sang a duet. That was the graduation ceremony.
In the 8 schools that were in Cornish, some would hold grades 1 through 4, and some would hold
Not
grades.
then, not then.
Oh, that was later. So
That was
back
later.
then it was 1 through 8 in
1
each
through
school.
8.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yes.
first time they held a 4th
Julie got
grade
squeals.
was when Wayne and
The
Ethel,
transport kids.
Wayne and Ethel was going to school.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think looking back going to school is that walking from the old farm to the schoolhouse, which was 7-8 of a mile.
Yeah.
And I missed one day of school in 4 years. And I had to walk.
Did very well.
So.
And you used to carry Bethina's dinner pail
Yeah.
with books.
Yeah.
They used to swear something fierce. They learned from all the hired men that they had. And I thought, the poor teacher, when Arthur and Wayne start school, the teacher's going to have an awful time. And they were perfect gentlemen.
Well, that was Sarah. Sarah could
Swear.
reel it off pretty darn good now, I tell you. But once you're into school, that all stopped.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing there is, and I just see her too, is that Mrs. Kidder,
Mrs. Kidder.
4 years.
Well, you had her 4 years?
4 years.
So did I.
Oh,
And
really?
so did our Eddie.
Huh.
We didn't have her all 4 years.
No. He had her 2.
Yeah.
He had her 2.
But Eddie is the first child that she ever taught, that she taught both mother and father.
And she's going to be 92, April 2nd.
Yeah.
She's doing all
She's
right.
something a little special.
She's doing.
Yes, sir, and if you didn't behave, look at your
Oh,
chin.
interesting.
I am from the 13th of April to the 8th of April, the next year older than she is.
Oh, so you'll be 93.
In,
When's your birthday?
April.
April.
Who's the woman that always goes to Mrs. Kidder?
Rawson?
Rawson, Mrs. Rawson.
Grace Ross.
She was 92 in November.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Cross is 92 in November. Have you heard anything how he was doing?
But that's another thing we're talking about, doctors now.
All right.
Do you remember Dr. Hughes from Meriden?
Yes, just barely.
He'd come to the house,
Yeah.
see his horse and buggy. He'd go house to house. This was I'll never forget, 4th of July, Arthur and I had fireworks. Arthur had a firecracker go off in his hand. So father, they have a car then? Yeah, horse and buggy. My father went to
Yeah.
Meriden, took Arthur.
Because Dr.
And he
Hughes used to come
painted it.
down the horse and buggy.
He painted it this purple stuff.
Yeah.
And he thought he'd better bring some back, and it's a good thing, because I'd throw the firecracker and I'd burn my hand before they got back. So.
One brother than the other.
But it was,
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when my mother was pregnant with me, she had wartime flu
Mm.
in 1920,
Mhm.
and my aunt had died of it. Helen Lovell's mother,
Mhm.
and the doctor didn't think that I would live. And mother was working on a little dress, and the doctor took it away from her. Said, "You won't be needing that."
Ooh. My sister died from
They
that
are.
flu.
They aren't always right,
Yeah.
are they?
That's
She,
my,
well, you know William,
yeah.
this is his mother that died. Well, she didn't die at the time. She had the flu.
Oh,
And then when he was born, she
she
died.
died childbirth.
But why is it called?
Hmm?
Why is it called wartime flu?
It was a big,
Because it was the First World War. It was
Uh-huh.
from
The
19
Spanish
It was a
flu
big
is what it went by.
epidemic,
Spanish
right?
flu is what it
Yeah.
went by.
A lot of people had it. And
The
a lot of people
Fifields.
died.
The Fifields, remember, the whole family died.
Yeah. It was a bad.
Going to the cemeteries again.
Right, a
and
lot
read
of
on the
people.
stones. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, When did most people start getting cars and things like that? I mean, how long did people use horse and buggy as the basic transportation in Cornish? In the area?
In the 20s, wasn't it?
When did the cars first start coming out?
In Cornish.
In Cornish, yeah. Who was it?
After the war, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can
1918.
more or less always remember cars.
There was cars in 1918.
Yeah.
I can remember when Dad got the first Overland
Yeah.
with
Look what Jack Benny used to have.
had pieces of leather that you snapped on for windows.
Yeah, skirts, like.
Yeah.
And then I can remember when Mr. Quimby had the old Model A with a rumble seat,
Oh my
and
goodness.
then he had the touring car that they went to church in on Sundays.
Yeah.
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 I think the biggest thrill was listening. Arthur and I, kids, would be out playing, and we'd hear the Stanley steamer coming up the hill, way down,
Uh-huh.
and he'd come up through. Where he'd puff away, coming along up through.
That's a cute story when Albert Parker Fitch was preaching in the Center Church, the brick church on Center Road, and the president was living in Cornish at the
That was Wilson.
Harlakington.
Wilson.
They called that Wilson, yeah, President Wilson. And he was going to church in a car, a horseless buggy, and he came up behind Mr. Fitch driving a wagon and horse, and he wouldn't go by him because he was the pastor. So the president stayed behind the minister all the way to church.
Why was Wilson in New Hampshire?
They had a
He was here for 3 summers. It was his summer White House.
Huh.
He had 2 daughters, and they took part in the plays up at Meriden, the Bird Sanctuary play. They both were in that.
Well, she was quite active too, wasn't she?
Hmm. Mrs. Wilson, the first Mrs. Wilson, or the second?
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's one that's here.
Yeah, right.
But this doesn't happen very often. Remember Judge Hands?
Oh yeah,
He
Learned
used to-
Hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Live on a flat road,
Yeah.
and he'd walk up over by the house,
Uh-huh.
and, well, generally, up to the house. He'd generally go over through, down the Gap Road, and then come up to the house. And we had a watering trough out in the barnyard, where the spring used to run in, and it was good fresh water. They'd never take water from the house. They'd go out and they'd dip right down in and drink right out of that watering trough. It was good enough for the cows, it was good enough for them. But they were nice people.
Judge Hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. United States judge, wasn't he?
See,
Well,
he was one of the,
Supreme
he was
Court.
one
A
of the,
judge in New York, I don't know.
Oh,
he was one of the judges on the German criminal trials that they
Oh,
held after
that's
World
right.
War II.
Huh.
That's right.
She came to the house after he died, and she'd asked me to come see her. Oh, so many times. Oh, I didn't fit into that.
Click.
No. And then she come to see Harry, something about the estate after he died. And she says, Rose, won't you come over and see me sometime? And I said, well, maybe I'd try to. Before she left, she says, you know what I'm going to do? You're coming over to see me at 3 o'clock Thursday. I want you to come, will you? I said, yes. Because I thought then she'd know that, that I was coming. And I went over there. She was outdoors. She was sitting out by the door waiting for me. I went over at 3 o'clock, and she took me in the house, took me all over that house, took me into his study and showed me all of his books and everything that he had there, and went upstairs into every bedroom. She opened every closet door and showed me the gown that her daughter wore when she graduated and the shoes she wore. And the same through with all of the children. She showed me everything they had. And we come down in the living room and went all over the house.
That was
And-
on the right there on Platte Road?
Yeah. And when we got downstairs, of course, I was going home. She says, just a minute, I want you to come out in the kitchen. So I went out in the kitchen, and the cook had just made coffee and fresh donuts. And we had coffee and donuts before I went home.
Hey, that's nice.
Wasn't that nice of her? I never felt quite so low below them after that. I thought, well, gee, I don't know, but they're just as calm as I am.
Do you remember her first name? What her first name was? His name was Learned.
Yeah. I don't know what
No.
I can't think right off. Mrs. Ann, no, I don't know.
Huh.
But she was an awful nice lady.
Yeah.
Do you remember they riding in the car?
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember?
I don't
They
think
had
so.
the car with a rumble seat, and the top was always down. She drove, and he always sat in the back end. Always.
What's a rumble seat?
It's one of those you turn the handle and pick it up, and here's the seat in the back.
It's like
The
in the
back of the
trunk
car.
there.
It folds down. It's a little coupe. You know what I mean by coupe? Just one seat,
One seater.
Uh-huh.
just like a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you get your back window in the pickup truck, then you take and cut it off to make it like a car.
Uh-huh.
Right here you had a handle you could pick up. And it's room enough for two people to sit down in here, and you had your back to lean up against.
So do you have anything between you and outside, or are you just
Nothing.
outside?
No.
Outside.
So
Just
you're
got the
sitting
cab
like
blocking the wind.
Looking through the back window into
Okay.
whoever's sitting inside.
I
My dad
see.
got one in the 40s, and there was 8 of us kids at the time. Needless to say, only 2, at the most 3 could squeeze in it, and they used to take turns taking us for a ride. Oh, we all screamed to get in the rumble
I
seat.
want to finish telling you about Mr. Hand. He would always sit in back and sing.
Sing?
Sing. All the time they was going, he would sit there, you know, and there's this thing, and he was playing away and singing all the way you ever see him going down the road. He was always just playing on the piano or make it going through the motion and singing.
I'll take that.
Yeah, he always would sit there and sing and
That's interesting.
yeah,
He was a jolly old soul.
Right.
yeah. Do you don't remember that?
Me?
No.
No.
You?
Wait.
Oh yeah, it's just a very vaguely.
Can you remember his?
Not that much. The main thing I remember is drinking out of the watering trough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he used to. Just
You always-
if he was playing on the
Always
piano.
said Mr. Nielsen.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nielsen
Always
Mr.
called
Nielsen.
us Mr.
instead of
Nielsen.
Nelson.
Yeah.
Mrs. Cox over here in Windsor, and they're the famous.
She used to walk with him.
She would walk with him. After his wife had died, they'd go off walking.
Oh.
And she'd come up over the hill with them, too.
Professor Dell
She was
from
nice.
Hanover College, from Hanover,
Yeah.
used to walk with him by the house when they lived at home.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever went by that house if they didn't just stop.
Mm.
Not to come in, but to stop and just have something to say.
The dooryard call.
Yeah, dooryard
Yeah.
calls. Yeah.
But,
But it was, I can see just how he used to make his fingers go on that, you know, go and sing away, and she'd be driving along in front.
I'll take that. I
I
can.
wish I had a movie of that.
Oh, wouldn't that be precious
just-
now? I can remember when Dayton Johnson was married. He and Ethel,
Yeah,
and we had a chivalry. Remember you know what a
I
chivalry
do.
is? The kids don't. You go there after they're in bed, supposedly, and you have pans with hammers, and you have bells ringing, and you have all kinds of horns tooting. And you go and they're supposed to serve you with coffee and chocolates or something or other.
Anytime?
You get them out of bed. Yes. And sometimes they wouldn't come down, and so you get a ladder and you go up to their bedroom window. Well, they snuck down, Dayton and Ethel, and got into a car. And I was with, I think it was Clyde Bailey, and I got in the rumble seat of his car with a couple others, I guess, or one other one anyway. And we went over stone walls and everything, chasing them in the middle of the night. It was fun.
You could
They
just
gave Harry and I one of them.
They did?
Yeah. The only one that I can really remember that was there was Stella Thornton. I can remember her so well.
Who?
Stella.
Oh,
Corbin's sister.
Stella. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Corbin's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was there. And Orrin and Hattie. And
Owen and Hattie Brown.
Orrin and Hattie Brown. And I can't tell you now. I probably couldn't think in time, but I can't right this minute who was there. But there was quite a crowd of them. We had gone to bed. We was at Harry's mother's.
Oh.
The house wasn't quite done with the fireplace. See, they renovated the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't quite done when
When you were married.
so we stayed with Harry's mother for a couple of weeks or so.
Mhm.
And they came there, but they called her and told her they were coming
Oh.
because they didn't want to disturb her.
So then she got you out of bed.
No,
Oh.
she didn't. She didn't let us know.
Oh, really?
They came and surprised us, but she just kept, but they done it so as not to disturb her.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't want to get her upset.
Uh-huh.
So they told her. And I remember they're coming there. And we went over to Orrin and Hattie Brown's. They was married just 2 weeks after we were.
Oh,
2 weeks to the day. And we went over there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock in the morning. I gave them a shivery.
So this was only after someone got married?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we went over there at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Just
I
to
don't
embarrass them
remember
a
who
little
was
bit to
over
begin
there,
with.
Uh-huh.
but,
What is the name of the dog?
Wendy. Wendy.
Wendy?
No.
She's freezing. She's pretty,
Oh,
Oh,
she's a
yeah,
nice-
sure.
pretty low hair.
Go ahead, let her go. Just watch it. She don't hit the stand, 'cause she's got to
Okay.
come and see you.
Yeah. She'll be okay.
She'll settle right down as soon as she inspects everyone.
She just don't like to have people move quick.
Okay.
Well, she's so good. Did he pass?
Go say
You
hello
go
to
ahead and
everybody.
pat her. Easy, Wendy.
Down.
satisfied now? Are you satisfied now? Are you satisfied now?
Oh, yeah, yes, good dog. Yes, good dog.
No, I don't know. We look back at those days and I kind of miss them.
I know it.
I'd like to do it again.
Wendy.
Back to the good old days, huh?
Mm.
The golden,
Some things I'd like to recall
yes.
that you can't quite
Remember
remember.
I'm getting there.
But what I think about more than anything is like when the folks and Al and Carol used to drive bus, never called a day on account of snowstorms.
No, I know it.
Put
They
chains on, go. We never had a day off from school because it snowed. I think my father called off school once, didn't he?
I don't know whether he ever called off school or not, but they did call off school once or twice.
Yeah.
But he did have permission. If he seen it was going to be a terrible snowstorm, he could pick them up and
Well, we come up by St. Gordon's and got to Carter's Turn. Couldn't go any farther. Just had chains on. I can't. Arthur and I can't.
William.
Huh?
William.
No.
William Reynolds.
I don't remember him, but I remember